Welcome everyone. If the transept in Over the Rhine is our new home, which by the way will be back there next week, to hear Brendan Hall, the CEO of the Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber. If the transept is our new home, welcome to Cousin's House, the Metropolitan Club, where we brag all day, every day about having the best views of Greater Cincinnati. And actually, we probably still do have the best view of Greater Cincinnati today, but we didn't pick the right day to be here. But nonetheless, we are glad that you are all here with us. And Bill Stilley is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Bill?
Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Thank you, Bill. And Kay Atkins, just in time to lead us in the four-way test invocation.
I was standing in line.
She was with me.
Forgot her.
Welcome to Rotary. Thank you, President Doug. We are grateful for all that we have, including the challenges we face in our work and personal lives. Our challenges are opportunities to learn and grow in our families and in our communities. We champion those in our community who invest in their work and seek excellence. We encourage and nurture those who are working for a vibrant region, which includes both sides of the mighty Ohio River. The region appreciates sports at every level, from the Pee Wee Leagues to the Olympics, and from high school to college to the professional sports teams. We treasure all the community volunteers, coaches, players, support staff, and fans. We also appreciate the role of the press. As Joseph Pulitzer said many years ago, journalism's job is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. We appreciate those dedicated journalists who seek the facts and are diligent in expressing them accurately. This country was founded on checks and balances, and the Fourth Estate is part of that heritage. We appreciate the media for promoting business, our thriving art scene, and our young people who want to be prepared for their role in the community and region and in their work life as they become adults. We are thankful. Amen. Amen. Now, let us repeat the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do.
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Be seated. Thank you, Kay. And Trevor Cobain is going to introduce us to our visiting Rotarians and guests. Trevor?
Thank you, President Doug. So, visitors, if you would please stand and record your name so that everyone recognize you. First here is Casey Gorman, who is a guest of Chuck Marks. Wendy Copeland, who's a guest of Melinda Kelly. Adriana Kowach, who's a guest of Mark Kuhlman, who's, I got these backwards, who's a guest of Jim Needhart, and Adriana was a guest of Jim Younger. I apologize there. And Ross Trupel, guest of Melinda Clark.
John Farmer, don't sit down yet. He's the man handling this coffee. This week's meeting sponsor is UBS and John and his team at the Northwest Wealth Management Group, where they work with families to plan for their financial futures, manage their investment assets, and regularly communicate as life happens. Let's give John a big round of applause for sponsoring. All right, one of our biggest events of the year is coming up soon, the Jefferson Awards. Bill Shula, give us an update.
Thank you, President. Good afternoon. I want to thank our Jefferson Award Committee for all their help and service, and all the help and service that Sarah and Christy have helped with this process. Also, we appreciate our Rotarian, Stephen Easley, who will film the finalists. We've been involved in recognizing outstanding service in our greater Cincinnati area since 2005. And we've had 9 national champions. We will continue to take your nominations until February the 15th. The form is available in our weekly e-raise and also on our website. Currently, we have 2 nominations. We will honor our 3 finalists and our 2024 winner on March the 21st with WCPO as our Tanya O'Rourke will be our MC at that particular program. Over 90 cities in the United States honor outstanding community service via the Jefferson Award, which started in 1972 with Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis and our own Ohio's Bob Tapp. So please consider nominations. Please talk to your colleagues out there, because it is so outstanding to see every single year that the nominations we do receive. It is great news for our Cincinnati area, and we're working with our Cincinnati Enquirer, who's going to be having an article possibly, I think, on Sunday. And also, we've been in newspapers that you can see. I left that. This is in the Claremont Sun a week ago. So we've been getting our pictures out there about the Jefferson Award. So please consider your assistance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. And we have the Circle of Life going on at Rotary this week. So we are welcoming future Rotarian Olivia Jaden Lanehart to Club 17, weighing in at 6 pounds and 8 ounces, 19 inches. Olivia couldn't wait to join Club 17. She came about 3 weeks early. Mom, Rotarian Caitlin Lanehart, and the future Rotarian are doing great. Let's give her a big round of applause. And the family of Richard Dick Flesher, as I think all of you know, passed away January 19th. They are gathering this afternoon to celebrate his life at Spring Grove Funeral Home on Thursday, January 25th, this afternoon, 4 to 6 p.m. Please keep their family in your prayers. We have a couple of members in the news. Emily Moss is currently in Belize on a medical relief trip, and she'll be presenting our flag to the Belize Rotary. And then also a big congratulations to Rotarians Gino Colangelo and Michael Vassar on the Smith Colangelo Group being recognized by Forbes as a 2024 Best in State Wealth Management Team. So congratulations. So we've had some starts and stops with our Fruit Bowl project that we secured a grant from Rotary International, and it's now starting again, and we need your help. We need volunteers every Wednesday morning between 9:30 and 10 to pick up the fruit at Freeze Brothers down on Dalton Avenue and deliver it to Roselawn Condon School. So again, Many hands make light work. If you want to sign up for every Wednesday, please do. But just go in and sign up for the Wednesday that works in your calendar. And let's get as many Rotarians to help in that project. The logistics will be easy. And you do that sign up in DAC-DB. Our next Rotary Happy Hour is February 6th at the Woodburn Brewing Company. RSVPs are not required, but they are encouraged, of course, in DAC-DB. All right, you've heard about this before, and we're going to continue talking about the latest craze in sports mania. It's great that we have Jason here. Maybe he'll talk a little bit about pickleball. So the Rotarian version of pickleball is called Picklegrass. And it's going to be held on Saturday, February 17th. There will be a competitive tournament of 32 teams, open play times for everyone, including beginners like myself, optional lessons, a silent auction, plenty of time for just mingling and drinks and food. There's really something for everyone. Again, Saturday, February 17th, the flyers are available. We're looking for silent auction donation items. We need to gather all of those by February 2nd, so make sure that you connect with the Rotary office. And then please share this event on social media. It's a great opportunity to spread the word about this great organization and invite prospective members. All right, let's do split the pot. This week's winner will reap $48, and the total pot has now gotten up to $1,391. Jason, who will make a good friend and make everybody else mad, including yourself, maybe. This number is 232500. 232500.
Never win.
If nobody says I've got it, then you win.
Hey, now I gotta fix it up again. Look.
All right, Gary Walton, will you please stand? Gary Walton, please stand. On three, let's everybody wish Gary Walton happy birthday. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday! Awesome. Thank you. Jim Neinhardt, let's present our program today.
Oh, you're a good man.
Thank you, President Doug. Since Dwayne Pullman polled everybody two weeks ago on how you get your news, I was just trying to put hands for, who gets on Enquirer, who gets in New York Times, who gets. You can't hear me? Oh, I apologize. So, since Dwayne Pullman polled everybody 2 weeks ago about how they get their news, I'll dispense with that exercise right now and really get right to it. Our guest today is Jason Williams, who is an Cincinnati Enquirer journalist. He came to the Enquirer in 2012, started out in business and transportation. You may recall that for a stretch he was the political columnist, and when Paul Doherty retired two years ago, Jason? Roughly? Yeah, he took over that column, and I always enjoyed reading his columns, and occasionally get some fire in the comments section online for his columns, but he's a terrific journalist. He's a University of Cincinnati alumnus, which automatically makes him a great guy in my eyes. And so without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Jason Williams.
Thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate everyone having me here today. Rotary it certainly was a close thing to my family's heart. My grandfather was a Rotarian back home in southeast Ohio, in a small town, Middleport, Ohio, for as long as I can remember. And so I always just remember, granddad's going to Rotary, he's doing something with Rotary. So every time Rotary, I've spoken to the Northeast Cincinnati Club, I don't know, 3-4 times maybe, I jump at the opportunity. So it kind of segues me nicely into, so my son, I have 2 young sons, one's 11 and one's 7. Well, the 7-year-old has to take, this is 2 nights ago, so I guess this is Tuesday night, and he has to take 100 pieces of something to school. And I'm not sure what it was for, but he has a little bucket of coins, and he's just fiddling around, and I don't think he had 100 in there. But he pulls out, I'm like helping him, and he pulls out the coin, it's the Rotary coin, and I'm like, I want to think it was from my grandfather, but I don't think it was from when I spoke at the Northeast Club, but nonetheless, the principles haven't changed, the goals haven't changed, and what I thought was interesting I really, I went back and looked at the back, and I was talking about the change in media, and the change from when I started in media in 1998 was my first job out of UC. And I thought, the questions are, is it the truth, and is it fair to all concerned? And I was thinking about when I started, 20-some years ago, to now, and although so much has changed in the industry, some good and some bad, really the core principles haven't, and that's to tell the truth and to be fair. And I thought, it just really struck me, and sometimes you take those kind of retrospectives on where you're at in the industry, and I think about the early days, and I came into the business in the heyday of news. The 1990s were the absolute heydays of newspapers. They were printing money, they had huge staffs, and we didn't know what the hell we were really doing from an audience standpoint, but they were making a lot of money. And so you would write a story, and you maybe write 2 stories a day, or 3, and you need to fill the paper, okay? And then you have a hard deadline, and usually for us that was 10:30 or 11, and that was it. And you send it off, and you hope people read it. All right, so all you have was circulation numbers. You didn't know who read the story. Well, fast forward to today, and there's a lot of criticism of the media, some of which I think is warranted. And I also want to say I do not speak for the Enquirer. I speak for myself. I'm a proud employee of the Enquirer. I love our editor. He's been very supportive of me, Burl Love, and my editors and my coworkers. But I stand here speaking for myself. Certainly, I'm here because of my job. But I just want to let you know, I do not speak for the Enquirer. Today, I say, the other day, this was Monday, and I don't know if you remember when the Enquirer went to that tabloid thing when they were trying to figure out print and is print going to survive? So they thought we were this is 3 editors ago, and they thought let's toot our own horns. We had a special section just for us to say hey, look at us. And a couple of us in the newsroom were going through that, and it was just mind-blowing. I mean, there were probably 150 people, and we did little bios for every single department. And there are whole departments to this day that were there, and that was published in March of 2013, that aren't there today. And I just thought, if you're still, and I've talked to my coworkers about this, this is nothing against those who have chosen to leave and who have, unfortunately, the business has made the decision for them. But if you're still in this today, it is in your blood, and you're a fighter, and you really believe in it. You believe in it to the core. And I think part of, you've had to also buy into change. You either change or die, and that's not unique to the media industry. But today, I think it's exciting because, like I said, when I first came in, I've had that perspective of seeing the transition. I'm not too old to really kind of, that internet thing. but I'm old enough to have known where it was before and where it is now. And the awesome thing, I think, is that we know exactly who our audience is. Me personally, as a whole, and I would assume this is probably the case for every other local media in town, each individual journalist in our newsroom has their own dashboard. I can go right now on my phone and I can look and see exactly how many people are on my column, how far they're reading into it, how many people read it today, how many people read it, what if it posted last week, how many people read it since then. And so we're able to now, have a strategy of what does the audience really want. And so they've challenged us over years and years, and they've drilled the whole digital thing into our head. I mean, we're like robots in some ways, to really study the metrics, to find that balance of what, you hear that term clickbait, and sort of find that balance between journalism and what people want to read. And that's a huge challenge, but it's a good challenge because, again, I'm thinking back to 1998, and I'm just writing stories, and we're just sending them off and filling a newspaper. Another difference, so digital metrics, it's interesting, you mentioned pickleball. I think about sports, people really want to read Bengals, Reds, high school football, and pickleball. They really do. Like, when we write a pickleball story, they really love it. Yeah, so I don't know if that says what about our audience or what, but the other big, I think, adjustment and the change in the landscape today is that the amount of feedback that you get, especially I think as a columnist, or if you write about touchy subjects or controversial subjects, and I write opinion, and they don't teach you this stuff in journalism school. Like, I talked to our interns over this last summer. We did a luncheon, and I was really real with them, and I said, look, when you get into business, like, you're going to get hammered by people, and they're going to say everything about you, your family, your personal life, whatever, on Twitter, Facebook, in the comments. How are you going to handle that? I said, they're not teaching you that. These are we had students from the best journalism, Missouri and Michigan and Indiana and Syracuse and Ohio University, I guess. I was kidding. We did have some OU people. And so we talked about, how do you manage feedback? We don't do a good job of that. We don't do a good job of helping journalists how to handle that, what to do, everyone's affected differently by it. I've come to have a thin skin. I don't think naturally I've come to have a thick skin. I don't think naturally I'm a very thick-skinned person. I think I've developed it. But I'll tell you an example of, in 2017, there was a pretty heated mayoral race, and there were some. I was a columnist, and I'm writing my opinion, and I was taking some hard stands on things, and I was really critical because that was the streetcar. It was do or die, and I was very critical. To this day, I'm still critical of the streetcar. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it was a waste of money, and that's my opinion, and you have every right to tell me that you disagree with that. But somewhere along the line, in October of that year, there was a Facebook page created of me, and it was of me getting my head cut off, like all these different memes. Yeah, it was pretty bad, and like our social media people had to fight with Facebook, and it took them like 3 weeks to take it down. But like, you don't. That's the difference between 1998 and today. Like, you didn't have that then. And so that's a big adjustment. And this is more in the personal, these aren't necessarily things that you see as the consumer of the news, but these are the things internally that you have to adjust to, and you have to find a way to, how do you deal with that? And if you don't learn how to deal with it, then you probably should go find another job or another career where you're not out there in the firing line. And certainly there are plenty of industries where you are, but I feel like those are really the two big differences, though. And I know you all as consumers see the difference, but really the core principles of is it true, is it fair, the mediums have changed, but on kind of the journalist side, it's that you're able to see your audience, try to figure it out what they want, what they don't want, and then it's feedback and managing that and trying to work your way through that as you're also dealing. I always say, like, there's times when you're catching hell from your audience, you're catching hell from the people that you write about, and you're catching hell from your editors. And so how do you balance that? So, and then much more today, you're catching a lot of stuff from your audience. Whereas, again, when I first came in, like, you get emails, and emails to this day, I still get a lot, but there's a big difference between emails and all the other stuff. Emails are usually paying customers, and usually a lot of people disagree, but they tell me why, they explain it in a very civil manner. And so that's a two big difference. A couple, what is a columnist? Why write my opinion? It's commentary, it's informed, fact-based opinion. I get to write about whatever I want. I'm in sports, I can still write some politics, I can write about fatherhood or whatever I want to write about. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. I don't take it lightly. I'm very appreciative of the job of my editors for empowering me to continue to do that. Because I know my editor takes a lot from me. He takes a lot of bullets from me, and a lot of probably some people in this room have called before. But there are some 4th Street people that have really come after me before for my commentary, and I know it's rock solid. I've thought through it. I've reported it. I've talked to people. You may not see a quote or anyone mention that so and so said something. But I typically try to talk to 4 people at least for every column. It's been a little different right now because I'm doing some new digital quick hitty things that we're working on tweaking right now. But I always wanted to be a columnist. I felt like it was I could tell the truth. I could give my opinion. There are a lot of different columnists. Like there are feature columnists that focus more on human interest stuff. There are opining columnists, 50,000, or they're public accountability. I like to think of it as a public accountability job. No matter what I'm covering or writing about, that I keep that accountability piece in mind. I always thought too, like the notion of and this is where the whole thing, I don't speak for the Enquirer, comes in. I always thought the notion of objectivity was just kind of like, it's hard to get your arms around that. I don't know if just my full opinion on, like, is there really such a thing as objective journalism? And there's such a thing as fair journalism, there's such a thing as, telling the truth, but the story idea in itself has to come from somewhere. And this isn't a criticism of journalism, but this notion that there will be journalists who, that was objective. Well, maybe it was neutral, and as neutral as you could possibly make it, but I believe more in the truth and fairness, and brings it back to the coin. I jumped over, as Jim said, to be the sports columnist after being a political column, news/political columnist. I did that for 5 years. The Enquirer was gracious enough to create that job for me because I had continued to put on my self-evaluation for many years. I want to be a columnist, and so our former editor, Peter Bhatia, was like, all right, go do it and see what happens. And it took a couple of years to build the audience. The audience became really strong and became loyal, and to this day, I still get emails of people saying, like, I wish you were doing politics. That's been a hard transition for me. Going to sports has been, I was a sports writer earlier in my career, but coming back to it has been really hard. And I thought it would be a really smooth transition. I'm like, I've covered politics, the rough, tumble world of politics. It's rugged. I had that Facebook page, like, you know, like people have said all these things on X and whatever, you know. But the big thing the couple things that are just so different, like having done it before, I thought, all right, I've done sports before, I've been a columnist before, now I can be a sports columnist, and that'll be an easy transition. Well, yeah, no, and one of the big reasons is because going back to the topic is that how much things have changed. When I did sports before, early in my career, and I left sports in 2007, we didn't have social media. We didn't, you know, the digital metrics and all that, and you didn't have comments online, and so it was like your opinion was like, oh, that was the one opinion, or the couple sports commentators, that was the one opinion people really look forward to. Well, now everyone has one. Everyone has an opinion now. And so trying to fight through the sea of opinions on all this stuff, that's a challenge. It's really hard. This is the hardest job I've ever had. And I left the business for a while, and I did nonprofit PR, and that was really hard. Because it didn't pay, and no offense to any nonprofits, because I love working there, but not the most organized. This was the nonprofit I worked for, sorry. And there was very much going from a intense, like, you gotta get this done now, to like, oh, you get it done now. Oh, you didn't get it done today? Yeah, I get it done. Oh, you didn't get it done? Oh, you can just wait, you can do it Monday. Or you can do it 2 months from now, or whatever. So, but anyway, like, I just, everyone has an opinion in sports, and the other big thing was like the audiences are different. I just thought like, oh, I've got this big audience that follow me on politics. Some people hate read me, and or they liked it or they didn't like it, but they read it. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, those folks, I'm still the Enquirer, so or Cincinnati.com, like they'll just come right over, and it's completely two different audiences, and it's a really uber news consumer, concerned citizen, reader, subscriber on the political columnist side, and it's really the complete opposite of like, I want to get away from all that stuff, and that's the sports audience side. The numbers say like it's still really, it's strong, like, but I'm still trying to find my way. I'm still trying to figure out the audience. We're still trying to figure it out. I still have to fight through, like, people are like, oh, why don't you go back to politics? And I'm like, are you saying that because you don't like the sports thing, or we didn't replace me in the other job? Like, I don't know. Like, so yeah, those are kind of the big differences in the job. And when you think about, again, like the changing landscape of the media, I don't need to review a lot of that stuff that you've seen. And the one thing I will say about the kind of that is that give local media, local journalism, try to separate that out. I'm not lecturing, I'm just saying, like, I like to tell people, like, when people like say, oh, the media this, the media that, I'm like, more often than not, it seems that it's the media when you're talking about cable news. And the division of all of the 3 big cable news networks. So I think when people say that, that's a lot of what they mean. Whereas here locally, as big of the challenges that we've had, and the people, all these coworkers I've lost, some have died in the newsroom over 12 years. 13 years at 12 years at the Enquirer. You have to just, fight through all that. And I also say this, like, no one's ever told me what to write. It never said like, ooh, you should say, one time, and I remember because I got a good memory. One time the editor changed something in my column. I mean, there's like, whatever, I'll have I think you meant this word, not this adjective or whatever. Okay. And it was when Kyle Plush, the kid that went to Seven Hills, suffocated in the back of his van. And I wrote really angry during that time. I was really pissed off. And probably most of my columns, my best columns, I feel like, are written with emotion. And it's funny because I want to step back, and I have that luxury of stepping back sometimes and thinking about it and let my emotions, whether this is happy or sad or mad or whatever. Whereas if you're a beat writer, you don't have that luxury. You got to get it out now. But sometimes I have a little extra time, a day, a couple days maybe. But I wrote really, really angry in my series. I was really mad at City Hall. I was mad at pretty much everyone at City Hall. It just hurt, and I think it was I felt a little personal, I think, because just having two sons, and but that's the luxury I have as a columnist. Like I can bring a little more personality, a little more personal things into it. And the one line that got cut out was like I had a line that said that everyone at City Hall has blood on their hands over this, and like the editor thought, like, he explained it to me, and he said, I think you're going to detract from the bigger meaning of your column if you leave that in there, because a lot of people are going to focus on that and think it was too harsh. And I don't usually, I'm pretty easy when it comes to editing. Like, I get it. And then it helped me because it helped me think about, even when I was writing about elections, or even to this day when I'm writing a tough subject, like, do I want to use that adjective to describe something, or have I pretty much explained it without using that adjective or without using that line? Like, I don't want to detract from the bigger meaning of the column or what I'm trying to get across by saying something that's just so incredibly harsh that people then just zero in. They make it about me and not the topic, or just the greater meaning of whatever is being discussed. So I took that lesson. There's one more thing I want to add on that. I'm a huge believer in transparency and being open with the audience. And I saw this thing with Larry King. He spoke to some college class, and he said, like, the first day he was on air, he was in some little radio station in Miami, and he said, the producer came back from commercial, and the mic went on, the red light goes on, and silence. Larry King said nothing. He was so nervous. And they go to commercial, and the producer comes in and is like, this is a communications business, damn it, communicate. And that was how he said it. He's like really laughing. And so they come back from commercial, and he says, my name's Larry King, I just got that name. It came from King's Liquors down the street, because my name was, the radio station without my name was too ethnic. And he's like, this is my first day on the air. This is my dream job, to be in radio. And I was so nervous that when the mic came on, I couldn't speak. And he thought from that day on, like, he established that he was going to be very honest and transparent with his audience. And from that day on, he felt like he could do no wrong from that standpoint. Certainly, you're going to get stories wrong, or you're going to get something people are going to hammer you for. But I don't know. When I saw that several years ago, I thought, and I watched it was a YouTube video, and I watched it before I became a columnist, and I was like, that was really helpful. And one time when I do think I did write something where kind of a word that I said detracted from the greater meaning. I wrote something about Trump, and I called him like the bad orange man or something. And But man, I got hammered. I got hammered by Democrats, like people who said they identify like, hey, I'm a Democrat, and I think you don't need to stoop to like sophomore language like that. I felt I was like I took it all in, and then it was in the fall, and I think I'd written the column like on a Monday, and that Friday we'd gone to my older son and I had gone to a high school football game in our neighborhood, and the other team comes running out on the field, and there's some people around like they're booing, and my son stands up and he's like boo, and I like turned to him and I like sat him down. I said, son, we don't boo. And at that moment, I felt really convicted, and I'm like, I booed in that column. And I stooped to a level that I shouldn't have stooped to. So I wrote a column saying, you know what, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. And I wrote a whole column about it. I wrote a whole column about telling my son and trying to teach him not to boo. And if I'm going to teach him that, I'm being a hypocrite by stooping to sophomoric language and essentially booing in my column, which to me is childish, or we should be stooping to that. And I just felt really convicted about it, and I wrote it and I said, from now on, when I refer to that, I guess it was the president at the time, I won't call names. I don't need to call a name, and I think that was a good lesson for me. So, yeah, I just wanted to share about sort of the internal part of the change in the media, whereas you know a lot about the external part, but the internal part. So, thank you so much. I don't know how much time do we have. We have open to questions. All the way to yeah.
Yes, sir. What a wonderful talk. Do you think there's been an evolution in the media where there's been much more of a desire to make the news as opposed to just report the news?
So the question is, do you think there's a desire in the media for this? I assume you mean like for journalists to make the news versus report the news. I think that goes to the cable news thing. I do certainly, there are a lot of folks, I think, on those networks that think they're the news. I don't think that is in local media. Like I don't see that in local media. You certainly I'm a columnist. You impart my own opinion sometimes. But I'm not trying to make the news. I'm trying to be the news. I'm trying to opine or weigh in on the news. But I do think that is the case, certainly. And then you see all the digital world of all these other media sites that have, popped up over the years. And so when you talk about the media, it's so crazy and vast that, and that's what's divided, that's spread the audience out as well. And that's why effectively digital advertising is not as lucrative as print advertising or as the local TV, the linear TV, over-the-air TV advertising, because that's more targeted, and then digital is just spread out really far. So I think so on cable, but I don't necessarily see that in local media. Right.
Yeah. How do you find the truth? Speaking of the truth.
Yeah. Well, you gotta have really good sources. You gotta have relationships. If you don't, I always say I'm nothing without sources and nothing without relationships. And that's been I had really good relationships on my last job, and I'm still working on that in this one. And I think that's another thing that I don't think it is. Another thing that hasn't changed, and it goes back to that getting to the truth and being fair. Well, a core, and I know this has changed too, but a core principle of the business is having sources and developing relationships and diverse sources, all from all walks of life and from all angles of things. I had an editor tell me, this is, I don't know, 3 years ago or so, like, he pulls me aside and says, it always blows me away that, like, you'll criticize someone and they, like, still talk to you. And I was just like, well, that's because I have a relationship with them. And they're also, like, most of the time, well, I shouldn't say most of the time, but if you're a politician, like, that's part of the gig. Like, you signed up for that. You signed up to be held accountable by the public, and that's the job of a journalist, to be a conduit to the public. But to me, I think it's sources. There will be other reporters. I've not had a lot of experience with public records. I've done some of that, but there's a combination of public records doesn't have to be public sometimes, and sources. Relationships.
Yeah, so this goes back to what you were saying about objectivity.
Yeah.
And getting to that. I'd like to hear what you think about, there's been this tendency, well, no, it's not a tendency, it's been a long-standing principle in journalism, it seems to me, that, you report what this side says,
yeah,
and then you report what this side says. And there's this tendency to make those things the same, no matter how demonstrably untrue what one side is saying. So, what are your thoughts on
yeah, that's a real challenge. And I don't want to get into, like, I know specifics, things generally, maybe what you're getting at, and some of the stories, and I think that thing probably on some things just kind of needs to go out the window. And look, editors and columnists and journalists and reporters and photographers make judgment calls all the time, and I think that has to be left up to your individual newsrooms. I don't think decisions like that should be done in a vacuum by one person. I think that should be probably a group of people making that decision. And then I think if you do make that decision to say, hey, we're not going to get the other side on this, I think you then have to turn around and be transparent about why, and tell people why you're not. And that's one thing I bringing it back to local, like, I appreciate that about our editor, Burl Love. Like, he's very good about that. And he's very good about explaining to the audience, here's why we did this, and here's why we didn't do this. And so I think you have to kind of take those types of stories on an individual basis and collectively in your newsroom among your leaders, and probably good to have your reporters weigh in as well, make that decision.
So you've seen the changes in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And there are 10 years. Does local print media still survive?
Well, it's funny, when we were looking at that thing the other day, like, we were joking, like, they said that we wouldn't be here 10 years from now. Well, it's 11 years almost since that thing was printed. I remember going to that same year, and it was later that year, maybe June of 2013. Bob Dickey was the CEO of Gannett, and I went to the IRE conference for investigative journalists, and we had a roundtable dinner with him, and he said, the daily print would be here another 5 years. I guess the alt, like a handful of daily days a week, would be for another 10 years. And then that the Sunday paper would still be here for another 25 years. I don't know if we'll make it 25, but we've made it past that 10-year point for the most part. I mean, I guess we print 6 days a week. It was funny, like, and I say I guess, because, like, we're so trained digitally and to focus on the digital audience, because it's all, and I'm not dismissing print, like, it's all content. So you produce content and you just put it across all platforms. Clearly, obviously, you can't put a video in print, but I just look at it as like another platform for the content to go in. So I hope it stays around as long as it possibly can, because let's be honest, they have not figured out the digital, the financial side of the digital world. I mean, you've seen some here recently, like Sports Illustrated just basically went poof, and you're seeing more and more cuts like that, and it's sad. It's reality. There's still clearly a desire for content. It's just the companies struggle to how to figure out how to make money to keep it going.
The biggest threat to content creation today is AI.
Yeah.
How are you using that to augment or help your position, or is it just a threat to become a echo chamber?
I'm not using it at all, and I'll never use it, but I do think that there's going to have to be a conversation in the industry. Maybe it's going on right now. I haven't heard anything about it locally, but Chat GPT, and you hear about. I'll teach a class sometimes at UC, and I'm like, I taught this semester last year. I was teaching a journalism class, and that was kind of right when AI was really in Chat GPT, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder if some of these students are using that to write these papers. And then probably, but then I thought, goodness, this could be really, we got to be really on our toes in our business about vetting our journalists and making sure we don't get pulled into that trap. Not just from the standpoint of having AI write your story, but from the standpoint of not being tricked by something that, when you're talking about getting to the truth, that's fake.
As social media is becoming more globalized and such, is there a discouragement for people to go into local media?
The question is a great question. With social media and how global it is, and really just how vast, right, it is that discouraging folks from going into media? I think I don't know if it's discouraging them from going into it. I know it's discouraging people to get out of it, or it's encouraging people to get out of it. It concerns me for a lot of young reporters that they kind of, I feel for them coming in at this time, and it goes back to what I was talking about with the interns, that you walk into it and you're not used to this intense people just saying all this stuff about you, and there's no filter and there's no accountability, and it's someone with a fake name, and you're like, oh, is that someone I actually know? Or that can really wear on you, and certainly if you don't have a lot of experience and you feel I've talked to some younger reporters before about the feeling like they're on this island by themselves, and so I do know it's definitely just encouraged people to get out of it. I don't know about I'm gonna assume probably it's discouraging people from getting in, but I will say this, X is just garbage. It's and it's not indicative of what I like to call the paying customer. And that doesn't necessarily mean that's someone that subscribes. That's someone who reads regularly, clicks on your stories, watches TV. The NPR did a thing on this last year. They quit Twitter, X, whatever you call it, and it didn't impact their audience at all. And I kind of did this own test with myself, and I basically kind of quit it in September, and I tweeted, I don't know, dozen times between then and now, and it hasn't impacted my audience at all. And so when you see people tweet something negative at you, and then it gets 500 likes and 200 comments, and it gives off this, it exudes oh my gosh, this is what everyone thinks about this person or that story or that media outlet. No, it doesn't. It's
what those people.
It's hard. It's hard to, as journalists, it's hard to keep the blinders on and think okay, I got just ripped me and I got 400 likes and 30 comments, but you have to stay focused on, like I talked about, those analytics and the audience, what the audience wants.
On a lighter note, I hear you a lot on WLW.
Yeah.
Is that a side gig or is that a career step or?
It's a side gig. I love radio. I've always loved doing radio. I've worked hard at it. I like the challenge of it. It's not as easy just clicking the mic on and talking and it's a side gig. My full-time job is the Enquirer, and they both the side gig really help. I mean, it kind of dovetails nicely off the full-time job because you're talking to people and influencers and doing reporting and then you get background stuff, and so that actually helps me then when there's a topic on radio to talk about that.
As a sports columnist for the Enquirer,
Yeah.
you're going to spring training, and so how much time are you going to spend there? What do you think the starting lineup?
Oh, okay. Goodness gracious. I am going to spring training. I'm going go for a week. I did a week last year. There's basically very minimal traveling requirements for the sports columnist. At least that's how I set it up. But one of those was that you travel, you go to spring training, which I want to do. I'm most passionate on sports, about writing about baseball. I will be going, and it's going to take too long to go down the list. But I would not be surprised if LA De La Cruz starts the season in the minor leagues. So, yeah. Yeah.
So what's been the hardest part about filling Doherty's shoes? Repeat the question.
Doug asked, what's been the hardest part about filling Doherty's shoes? I think it's been trying to overcome, and this is where I've equated a lot of those emails, like people say they really missional in politics. So I've taken a lot of that as we missed Doherty. And I actually, it's funny, I just talked to this completely different style. It's the thing about Paul Doherty is a generational talent, truly from a writing standpoint. He's an incredible writer. He could write everything that he wrote. He could pretty much write in 15 minutes. I'm not kidding. And it would be clean. And no typos. Truly an amazing talent. I can't do that. I always tell I'm a better reporter than he is. He's a much better writer than me, and he did it for 35 years, and I've done it for. Really, I started over when I went from the news side to so I've been doing it for less than 2 years. So that's been a big adjustment.
So this is a question about your sources. Your new beat.
Yeah.
Who's the most genuine sports leader that you're talking to these days?
I tell you, I think we're very fortunate, and I've thought of this very thing. Who's the most genuine sports leader in our region? We are very blessed to have two fantastic leaders of both of these organizations, Zach Taylor and David Bell. They're both wonderful people. They're both good human beings. They're both awesome dads. They're both great husbands. Those are the things I'm interested in those guys. And because they're I love that about them, that they're not just sport, like baseball, football. To me, they've had success because they have a life. They have other things going on in their life. There are other things that are more important to them in their life than to win baseball games or to win football games. And if you take care of your business and your job, the success will come. And I think it's come for both of them.
Awesome. Let's give it another round. Jason, you can put that coin that you have in your right pocket, because I'm going to give you a coin for you to put in your left pocket. It's almost the exact same coin. It's got the four-way test. It's actually got a beautiful picture of our skyline that you can really see. We appreciate you being here. We're also making a donation to the End Polio Now campaign, which we are 12 cases away from eliminating on this planet. So help us with that donation. Thank you very much. Thank you. So Rural Affairs, is that meeting at, well, help me, somebody, Sarah, Christie?
Yes, Parlor A here.
Parlor A, right after this meeting?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Just wanted to make sure that I wasn't directing people in the wrong way. So Parlor A is right down that hallway.
They're out there.
And as you're leaving, make sure that you go back the same way that you came in, drop off your name tags, and pick up your parking validation ticket that's already been validated for you to be able to get out of the parking garage. But if you did not hand Christy a parking ticket, do not take one. Okay? You got it? You got that instruction? All right. Very good. Thank you for being here. Make it a great day.